Imagine this. You paid off your home. You did everything right. And one day, someone puts a for sale sign on the yard. Not a break-in, not a burglary. They stole it on paper. Today, I'm going to show you how criminals are stealing homes across the United States through title theft and what you must do to protect yourself. I'm Mike Burns, and I spent nearly 3 decades investigating financial crimes, and this one's been around for years, but it's growing fast. So let's take a look. Let me introduce you to Mary. Mary is 74 years old, a widow who lives alone in Arizona part of the year and spends summers with her daughter in another state. Mary's husband passed away 5 years ago. Her home is the last piece of stability that Mary feels that she has. Mary owns the home free and clear. She keeps it maintained. She checks on it seasonally. One afternoon, while staying with her daughter, Mary sees a call from a neighbor. "Hey, Mary, why is there a for sale sign in your yard?" Mary laughs. There shouldn't be, but there was. And while Mary was away, her house had been offered for sale. A buyer's in escrow, and documents had been filed with the county recorder showing someone else as the legal owner. Mary's house had been stolen on paper. So here's what happened to Mary. Criminals searched public records. They identified Mary's home as being owned free and clear. Since Mary spent half her time with her daughter, she used her daughter's mailing address on her documents. The thieves noticed that the mailing address didn't match the property address. So they created fake IDs and filed a fraudulent quitclaim deed with the county, transferring Mary's home into a fraudulent LLC. Once the property was listed in the fraudulent LLC, the thieves listed the home below market value for a fast sale, all without stepping foot inside the property. This is title theft, and it can be happening to you or a loved one right now without you even knowing about it. So here's how title theft works. For starters, thieves find homes or even vacant land that's owned free and clear. Next, the title thieves obtain the owner's identity either through online open sources, phishing schemes, or even using the dark web. After that, they use your information and they create fake IDs and forge your name on a quitclaim deed or other transfer documents. The thieves will then file these forged documents with the local county recorder. And once they're recorded, the thieves appear to be the legal owner. And once the thieves own the property on paper, they're able to take out a mortgage or a HELOC and disperse the cash. They can sell the property outright to an unsuspecting buyer, or they can even run rental scams. I want to be clear that this scheme also happens with homes that have liens or existing loans, but have extremely high amounts of equity. But it's most common with homes that are owned free and clear. And the reason for this is simple. If a house has any sort of loan or lien on it, even for a small amount, that lien must first be addressed. For a home with a loan to be outright sold from under you, the existing loan will have to be paid off prior to the sale. If you have a loan on your property and the title thieves decide that it's easier for them to take out a fraudulent loan or a HELOC, they'll have to still deal with that loan by having a subordinated agreement between the existing loan and the new loan. This means that the thieves will have to file additional fraudulent documents to place one of the loans into what's called a subordinating position. In my experience as a special agent investigating these types of crimes, removing a lien through a fraudulent deed of conveyance is much more difficult, as it requires many more things to work in the thief's favor, including having a title company issue a clear title. Now, this does not mean that you are immune to title theft if you owe money on your property, as there are other factors coming into play here that affect how vulnerable you are to this crime. We'll address these in a moment, but just know that if you own your home or land flat out, you are much more likely to be targeted by title thieves. So how is this even possible? Well, let's just say that the current system is flawed. In nearly 3 decades as an investigator, one of the things that has always blown my mind is how easy it is for a criminal to file a document on your property. The way it is now, they can simply walk into the county recorder's office, or in many cases file online and file a fraudulent document, such as a notarized deed stating that you have transferred your property into their name. Here's something a lot of people don't realize. Most county recorders are just paper filers. It's in their name. They record documents. They don't verify authenticity. Also, while we're talking about people in important positions that don't verify authenticity, a notary's job is only to verify you are who you say you are, or in other words, the IDs match the face of the person standing in front of them. It's not the notary's job to go online and check that Joe Scammer or whoever is not the actual person in charge of that position. All they're going to do is make sure that IDs match. That means if I'm a scammer, I can walk into a notary with a fraudulent transfer document, loan documents, or even a deed of reconveyance. And as long as my face matches the name on the ID and fraudulent documents, they will stamp those documents all day long. And I can then go to the county recorder and file these fraudulent documents taking out a loan on your home or even selling a property from under you, and there will be no questions asked. This is a huge vulnerability that is being exploited by criminals. Make no mistake, it is a flaw in the system that is allowing criminals to enter through the back door and steal our most precious asset. The FBI has issued repeated warnings about rising quitclaim deed fraud. Industry data from the American Land Title Association also shows continued growth in title-related fraud tied to identity theft. This is not an isolated incident. It is systematic and it's happening all over the country. So, who's being targeted? Who's most at risk? For starters, if you own your property free and clear, you're at risk. If you are an elderly homeowner, you're at risk. If you have high equity, you are probably more at risk as well. If you own vacant land free and clear, you are definitely at risk. If you have a rental property, a vacation rental, such as an Airbnb, you're at risk. If you are an absentee homeowner that lives out of state, you're at risk. And if you're an absentee homeowner that has vacant land and lives out of state, you are probably the most at risk. So why? Why are you more at risk if you're an absentee homeowner, landowner, or have a rental property? Well, because there's no oversight. There's nobody living there or checking on it. So the chances of delayed discovery of the fraud are extremely high, particularly with vacant land. So why are people who own properties free and clear being targeted the most? Well, again, because there's no bank, there's no oversight. Also, the thieves need to sell the property fast. So if no bank loan to pay off, the property can be sold a lot quicker, sometimes in days to a cash buyer. Thieves always want a cash buyer since cash escrows close the fastest and have the least amount of resistance. So what are some of the warning signs to look out for? What are some of the red flags? Well, for starters, if you stop receiving property tax bills. Also, if you receive mail that's addressed to somebody that you don't know at your property. If you receive an unexpected loan document. Also, if neighbors see strangers touring your home or vacant land. If you receive a foreclosure notice on a loan you didn't take out, or if you notice an online listing of your property. If any of these happen, treat it as urgent. It's not clerical, it's not administrative, it's urgent. Mary told investigators, "It felt like someone had broken into my life." That's what people don't understand. This isn't paperwork fraud. It's an identity invasion tied to your largest asset. Victims feel violation. They feel embarrassment. They have a fear of losing security. They have a loss of control. And even when the issue is fixed, the trust is damaged. Title theft is a nightmare because in addition to the emotional toll that takes on you, you now have a very real legal dilemma involving three parties. You have the owner of the property, the victim, who's like, what the hell is going on? I never sold my property. You had the bad actor who took off the money. And now you have the buyer in due course, the second victim of the scam, because they just paid real money for property that they can't even move into. Again, it's a real nightmare that's not easily fixed. So do whatever you can now to protect yourself and your family so that this does not happen to you. So if you're lucky enough to own your property outright, first off, congratulations. Congratulations for being free and clear. Also, congratulations, you're now a target. But there are some things you can do. For starters, sign up for property alerts. Many counties offer free recording alerts that notify you whenever documents recorded against the property. This can help stop criminals in their tracks, as you'll be alerted to issues immediately and can take swift actions if any papers are filed in your name or on your property that you don't recognize. Secondly, you should periodically check your property records on your county's official website. I'd say you should do this several times a year. It's pretty simple and it's free. You can search by your name, you can search by the address. And again, this can help catch problems before they get out of control. A third thing you should be doing is monitoring your property tax bill delivery. If they stop arriving, investigate immediately. You should also reduce online data exposure and protect your information. Scammers use the internet to collect personal information about people to impersonate them and steal their property. Be careful who you share personal details with and what's out there. You should also remove your personal information from data broker sites. Also, consider title insurance. While it won't protect you from outright fraud, it can help mitigate financial damage. Also, pay attention to what type of insurance you have, as all plans are not the same. A standard title policy only protects against property defects that existed before you purchased the property. But an enhanced policy, such as an American Land Title Association, ALTA, homeowners policy can help protect you against things such as post-policy forgeries, aka title theft, or fraudulent loans taken out on the property by bad actors while you're the owner. Not sure what type of policy you got? You can check to see if you have this type of insurance by checking your closing documents or original title policy for the phrase ALTA, ALTA, or enhanced policy. If you still aren't sure or you can't find the docs because you bought the property years ago, you can always check with your local title rep and they can help you. Also, recognize that there are companies out there that offer home title lock services, but note, these are not insurances. Rather, these are monitoring services that alert you after a document has been filed. They typically won't pay for expensive legal fees required to sue the scammer or fix your title. But by having the right title insurance policy, this will help you sleep at night. Finally, get to know your neighbors. Whenever I leave town, even for a short period, I tell at least one of my neighbors who I trust, hey, I'm going to be going to town for a few days. We aren't expecting any moving trucks. It's kind of a lighthearted way of saying, I'm not expecting anyone at my house while I'm gone. So if you see anything, say something. Or better yet, call the authorities. It's just a simple way that neighbors can look out for each other. And the same thing applies here. If your home is vacant every summer while you visit your grandkids or you travel to Florida every winter to escape the winter cold, just let somebody know so they can look out for you. So this next section is for realtors out there. As a licensed realtor, I too know the feeling of excitement that you get when the phone rings and it's someone calling you that wants you to list their property. So listen very carefully. If you are a realtor, you can play a big part in preventing title theft by doing the following. For starters, avoid remote closings if possible. If you have a vacant land listing, slow it down. Verify seller identity beyond service ID. Whenever possible, ask for in-person identity checks. Confirm ownership independently. Verify social media if possible. Do the stories match up? Is the seller claiming to be a doctor, but on social media, he's a diesel mechanic? Ask for copies of documents that only the owner would have, such as a utility bill, tax bill, or a survey from when the property was purchased. Use common sense judgment. As a realtor, you should be asking clients what type of upgrades they had anyways. So if somebody's claimed that they lived in a house for 20 to 30 years, but they can't tell you what type of upgrades they made, that should be a huge red flag. Be cautious of sellers demanding fast cash closings. Be cautious of sellers who want to sell the property for way under value. I'm not talking about smart pricing or pricing a little below the market to create demand. I'm talking about a significant 10, 20, or 30% or more discount. Think to yourself, yeah, I know they want to sell it fast, but who doesn't want more money? Same thing goes for only wanting a cash buyer. Now, I'm not referring to a seller that's willing to look at all offers, but ultimately goes with the cash buyer. I'm referring to a seller that only wants to market to cash buyers. Because outside of some extraordinary circumstances, such as the house being a total fixer that may not qualify for traditional financing, ask yourself, why does this person only want to go with a cash buyer since cash offers are typically lower? Again, who doesn't want more money? Be cautious of sellers who don't want you to put a for sale sign on their property. Scammers are relying on the scheme to stay secret. So they might say something like, just put it on MLS. Realtors, putting a sign on the property is more than just advertising and getting additional business. It puts the neighbors on notice that the property is being sold. And this is really important with vacant properties. I know that sometimes owners may not want a sign, but the property is vacant anyways. Ask yourself, why wouldn't you want me to put a sign on the property? Maybe one of your neighbors might want to buy the property. Be cautious of sellers who don't want you or potential buyers to have access to their property. They might say something like, oh, the tenants are uncooperative, or just do a drive-by. Fraudsters rely on speed and politeness. Professional skepticism, well, that protects everyone. Title thieves don't need to break in. They just need to file paperwork. Title theft is rising because it's profitable and often low risk unless victims respond quickly. Tonight, go online and check your property records. And send this video to your parents, friends, loved ones, and anyone you know who owns a home free and clear. Because the worst call you can get is someone asking you, why is your house for sale? This is Fraud Watch, Inside a Scam. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye for now.